So welcome back, my little fit nerds. Whenever I talk about how important resistance training is for fat loss, as in reducing your body fat percentage, not just like trying to lose weight on the scale, the most common objection that I get from people is, but I don't have access to a gym, I can only work out from home. How on earth am I supposed to lift heavy at home? So today, I want to take a minute, sit down, and answer that question for you, because it is absolutely possible to train in an optimal way to be losing body fat and maintaining muscle from home. You just have to be a little bit more strategic about it than you would if you had full access to a gym. Side note, please ignore the weird little inconveniently placed lights from my blinds are closed, but we got this going on. But anyway, super quick recap of why you need to be resistance training, you need to be lifting heavy if your goal is to get leaner, is that essentially when you're trying to lose weight, you have to put yourself in a calorie deficit. But if you were just focusing on weight loss, your body is not really going to distinguish between losing weight from body fat versus losing weight from muscle. And so if you were to lose 10 pounds, but half of it came from fat and half of it came from muscle, your body fat percentage is not going to change nearly as much as if 9 of those pounds came from fat and 1 of those pounds came from muscle. So assuming your goal is actually to get leaner and not just lose pounds on the scale, you really want to be focusing on making sure you're maintaining as much muscle as possible while your weight is going down. And that's going to mean that most of your weight loss is going to come from fat, making you look leaner. And the most important thing to do with your workouts in this regard to maintain muscle mass is to lift heavy. And even if you don't have access to a gym and you can only work out at home, you still need to be prioritizing this if you want to make your fat loss as efficient as possible. I am fully aware of how difficult it can be to feel like you are truly lifting heavy from home, because you're obviously a lot more limited on your equipment. But it is still absolutely possible to get great results working out at home, so let's just break down everything you need to know. First and foremost, the same principles are going to apply to your training, whether you are training in the gym or working out at home. First is that you are going to want to be lifting heavy. And this means training in the approximately 1 to 15 rep range. And heavy is completely relative to you and your body. You don't have to be lifting a certain number of pounds in order for something to be considered heavy. It just has to feel heavy for you, which essentially means hitting your target reps and being able to do maybe 1 or 2 more good reps with good form before your form breaks down. So let's just say in your program is 5 push-ups. You should be able to do 5, 6 good push-ups before your form breaks down, and that counts as lifting heavy, at least in this context, even though you're technically not lifting any weight because it's just a body weight exercise. If you struggle to do that 7th rep, if you literally cannot do an 8th rep, then 5 to 6 reps for you is still in the heavy range that is going to be helpful for maintaining that muscle as you're losing fat. And if you can do more than 15 reps for most exercises, you're probably not going heavy enough. And if you're at home and can't increase the weight for it, then that means you might want to just swap out that exercise for something that's more challenging. So while you're going to be training in the 1 to 15-ish rep range, you're also going to be sticking to the approximately 3 to 5 set range that is pretty standard when you're doing the kind of resistance training you would be doing if you're losing fat. And you're also going to want to make sure that you are training your whole body, all the various muscle groups, so that you can maximize the progress that you can make. So for the most part, you're sticking still to the pretty standard principles that come along with regular resistance training. But working out from home, having more limited equipment, etc., you're gonna have to give yourself a little more wiggle room in a couple places. The first place that I recommend allowing yourself some wiggle room is in the strictness of the rep ranges that you are training in per your program. So oftentimes in gym-based programs, you'll see people in more strength phases, so the 1 to 5-ish rep range, and when they're doing those workouts, they're really only training in the 1 to 5 rep range, maybe some in the 6 to 8 rep range, but they're very strict about that rep range. And then you're training for hypertrophy, which is the 8 to 12 rep range, and then you can do the 12 to 15 rep range to focus more on endurance. But when you can't actually adjust all of your lifts in little 5-pound increments, it's just gonna be a lot harder to manage progressive overload and manage your workout programming if you don't give yourself a little bit more wiggle room in the strictness of those rep ranges. So in creating your workout programming, you may have a program where one day you're doing an exercise that you really can only do 1 to 2 reps of. Maybe it's a push-up and you're working on your straight push-up without knees, and you can only do 1 to 2 reps. But then within that same workout program, you might have, let's say, like a banded pull apart where you're working on your delts, and maybe you can do 12 to 15 reps of that because it is a resistance band. Like, it's gonna be hard to do a resistance band exercise where you can only do 1 to 2 reps. And so those 2 exercises with very different rep ranges might end up in the same workout program, and that's okay. And then within the individual exercise, let's say push-ups, again, you might be able to have more wiggle room in the sense that, like, you're not gonna only allow yourself to stick to the 1 to 5 rep range. You're gonna just slowly over time work your way up from 1 push-up to 15 push-ups. Basically, the science even shows us that there is really kind of just a sliding scale within that lower rep range of 1 to 15, and there's so much overlap between the benefits that you get from like strength to hypertrophy to more endurance that you're not going to be ruining your progress, ruining your goals by like not sticking to those very strict rep ranges that you tend to see in gym-based programs. And then another place to give yourself more wiggle room is leaning into more sets, fewer exercises. So for example, your whole workout could just be like 4 exercises, but you're doing 4 to 5 sets per exercise, as opposed to, again, what you might see in like a standard gym-based program is more of like 7 to 8 exercises with 3 sets. And this is mostly because there is a lot less variety of what you can do at home to still get the same results and make the same progress. So since you have fewer exercises, probably more helpful to just really hone in on those exercises and add more volume that way, rather than try to add more volume by just adding more exercises. And especially when it comes to fat loss, as opposed to like trying to specifically sculpt your body like you would need to for like a bodybuilding competition where like you need to like specifically emphasize one part of your delt over another. Like, that should not be your concern if your only focus is fat loss. If your focus is fat loss, you just need to be working the muscles and thinking about overall volume rather than targeting very specific small muscle groups to like grow one over the other. Like, you don't need to do 3 different chest exercises to hit like the top of the pecs versus the bottom of the pecs. Like, just think about your chest, work on chest exercises. My first big tip when it comes to training at home is probably an obvious one, but it needs to be said, and that is get as much equipment as you can. The more equipment you have, the more variety you're going to be able to incorporate into your workouts, which is just gonna make it a lot easier to stick to your workout program in the first place. Like, I think boredom is the #1 reason people struggle with doing effective workouts at home. So you basically have no excuse not to at least get some resistance bands. But also, if you can invest in adjustable dumbbells, those can go such a long way towards making your programming that much easier and more efficient. Like, they are absolutely worth the investment. If you can get a barbell and some weight plates, you basically don't even really need to be watching this video, because at that point you have enough equipment to do something much more gym-like. But also, a pull-up bar back is one of the most difficult muscle groups to hit heavy at home, and so a pull-up bar is going to be your best friend. Those you can get pretty cheap on Amazon. And then lastly, a weighted vest is a fantastic option to add to your arsenal of equipment, but worst case, if you have a backpack, you can just throw weights in it. And to make a balance, 2 backpacks. One on the back, one on the front, full of jugs of water. Now you have a weighted vest. Beyond sourcing equipment elsewhere, next big tip is get creative with the things that you do have at home. If you can't go to the gym because you have a toddler and can't leave the small child can become a kettlebell. Don't swing the child, but like, if you're trying to do some goblet squats, you got, I don't know how much toddlers weigh, a 20-pound weight that you can goblet squat, and now you're bonding with your kid. It's a win-win. And if a toddler goblet squat is too easy, try a toddler Bulgarian split squat. That's probably going to be really challenging and definitely count as lifting heavy. And if you don't have a small child that you can treat as a weight, get some gallons of water. 1 gallon is a little over 8 pounds. So if you have 1 gallon in each hand, that's almost 17 pounds. There's a lot that you can make challenging with that. You're gonna be like, oh, but Marissa, squatting 17 pounds is so light. Like, I can squat so much more than that. Have you tried pistol squatting with 17 pounds? That's gonna be heavy. And then within getting creative with equipment at home, use leverage to your advantage. Like for example, what around me is heavy? Aha. Cast iron teapot, pretty heavy, maybe 5 pounds? Am I just weak? Feel like it can't be more than 3 pounds. I don't know. It's solid though. But like probably not heavy enough to be lifting heavy for like an overhead press like this. But with leverage, right now, it's directly over the shoulder joint. So there's not any increased weight through leverage. But we do this, now it's far away from the shoulder joint, so much more leverage, so much more difficult even for me to just hold it out here. Suddenly, instead of hitting shoulders by doing a shoulder press, we can hit shoulders by doing lateral raises. And this is significantly heavier and significantly more challenging for my body. I haven't trained upper body in a very long time, so this in itself probably sufficient for me to hit shoulders today if I wanted to. Also remember that you yourself weigh something. You are a weight and you can use leverage with your own body weight to make exercises more or less challenging. So for example, with a push-up, to make a push-up easier, you shorten the lever by doing a knee push-up or elevating your hands. If you need to make it harder, then you're going to elevate your feet. Not all exercises are conducive to being levered to make them more or less challenging, but use this when you can. Next thing you can really focus on to make these workouts more efficient is unilateral training. So one-sided training, particularly when it comes to your lower body. This is effectively going to just double the amount of weight that you're using because you're only using one limb instead of two to lift the weight. Bilateral training, you're using both of your legs in a goblet squat versus a Bulgarian split squat where you're only using one leg to lift the weight. Again, if you have those gallons of water, you might be easily able to goblet squat 2 gallons of water, but as soon as you try to do Bulgarian split squat with them, that might make it just challenging enough. If regular push-ups are too easy for you, you've even elevated your feet, now you're doing decline push-ups and you can do 15 of those. One-arm push-ups. You have options. Are they fun? Not always. They can be very, very challenging, but that is a great way to add in a progression to make things heavier. Another principle to focus on and utilize to your advantage is time under tension. Time under tension is just the amount of time your body spends doing that exercise, essentially. So if it takes you a minute to do 10 squats, assuming you're not, resting for 10 seconds between each rep, then your time under tension is approximately a minute. Rep ranges themselves are kind of meaningless. They are just a way to dictate the time under tension because your body's adaptation is going to be much more dictated by the amount of time your body spends doing that exercise than the number of reps that you do. So you can utilize time under tension to your advantage to progressively overload exercises and to make exercises more challenging. So the traditional tempo that you probably want to start with and then can kind of play around with when it comes to exercises is the 3-1-1 tempo. And these numbers correlate to the different parts of the exercise. So the first number, 3, is the eccentric phase of the exercise, which is the lowering or lengthening part of the exercise. So in a push-up, it's where you're going down. In a bicep curl, it's where you're lengthening your bicep. So that should take 3 seconds. The next number is the pause in between. So in 3-1-1, it would be a 1 second pause. And then the third number is the concentric portion of the rep, or the part of the rep where the muscles are contracting. So in a bicep curl, it's the up part. In the push-up, it's the push part. If you ever see a 4th number in there, that's just the pause between the reps, essentially. So if it were a push-up, it'd be 3 seconds down, hold 1, push for 1, and then if it was 1, you would wait a second before you start again. With the conventional training that you'd want to be doing in order to maximize fat loss, maintain as much muscle as possible, you're gonna see kind of a variety of different tempos, but as a whole, the rep should be about 4 to 6 seconds long. Most programming is gonna call for approximately a 5-second rep, and usually the eccentric phase or the lowering phase is going to be the longest part of that rep. And all it takes is giving it a try to see how effective this can be at making the exercises a lot more difficult. It is a lot easier to just bang out 10 push-ups when you're doing them as quickly as possible, as opposed to trying to do 10 push-ups, but actually using the 3-1-1 tempo as you're doing it. It's gonna take a lot longer and be a lot more challenging because you're gonna be getting a lot more time under tension. This isn't to say you should make every single rep like 20 seconds to maximize time under tension, because at that point you are going to get much more into endurance-based training rather than strength-based training. So again, reps should be approximately 5 seconds on average, but you can play around a little bit with maybe doing like a 2-1-1 or a 3-2-1 or a 3-0-2, just to challenge your body in different ways and add a smidge of progressive overload by lengthening the duration of the exercise by a little bit instead of adding an entire rep. Another small adjustment that you can make to your exercises to add to progressive overload without having to add more reps or more sets or more weight, if you don't have access to more weight, is utilizing range of motion as a way to modulate your total load. So for example, let's just stick with push-ups. Let's say you can only do 2 full range of motion push-ups. That means it's a great exercise for you to be utilizing as you are trying to lose fat at home, but you're really struggling to get the third. You can instead regress the load by doing half range of motion push-ups. So just do like half a push-up and maybe do that for 6 reps or however many reps you can do, and work your way up to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, however many half push-ups. And then you can go back to doing full push-ups. And by that point, if you can do 12 half push-ups, you'll probably have been able to add a third full push-up. So you can utilize regressed versions of an exercise to build up your strength in the full version of the exercise. An important note for at-home workouts that I think a lot of people really need to hear, and honestly, even if you're not doing workouts at home, important to hear this, because I see way too many workout programs that just don't know what they're doing. And that is that workouts do not need to be complicated to be effective. In fact, usually the most effective workouts are the ones that are a little bit boring, because you're doing the basics. You're doing the squats, the deadlifts, you're doing the push-up, the bench press. I mean, obviously not if you're at home, you're not bench pressing, but you know, you don't need to be doing one-legged, half-balancing cable spin-arounds in order to see results. The basics are the basics for a reason. And when you're training at home, lean into that. Also, again, unless you are trying to train for a bodybuilding competition and really need to focus on very specific muscle groups, you don't actually need that much variety in order to make progress. You do need to be changing up your programming every once in a while to be hitting your body in different ways and just eliciting further adaptation so that you don't plateau, but you don't need to be doing all these various different exercises and confusing your body. Like, muscle confusion literally just gonna confuse your body. Like, if your body's confused, do you think it can actually work in one specific direction and adapt in the way that you want it to? No. If you just focus on the basics and progressively overloading them, you're going to get to your goals much more efficiently than if you're trying to throw in all of this variety and fancy exercises. And that's true at home and in the gym. And I also feel like people don't really want to hear this one, but stop wasting your time with at-home ab workouts. Like, if you love them, fine, do them, but they are not really helpful when it comes to fat loss. Like, training your core is still very important, it's still very good, but when you're focusing on fat loss specifically, your abs are a very small muscle group. The amount of calories you're going to be able to burn training your abs much lower than the number of calories you're going to be able to burn by training your whole legs. Even if you're trying to lose fat around your midsection, a pistol squat is going to be much more helpful for you than a crunch. I have a whole video about ab training and myths and everything. I'll leave a link to that down in the description box below, because that's a whole other rant. But basically, focus more on the bigger muscles rather than trying to do more isolation exercises for the little muscles. But since you are training at home and have less access to variety, you might have to do some more isolation exercises. So it's not like don't do isolation exercises, but if you're prioritizing one over the other, prioritize the bigger compound lifts. So to give you guys some good examples of some exercises that are going to be really, really helpful to do at home that are also going to be heavy. As far as squat variations go, you can always do Bulgarian split squat, toddler Bulgarian split squat. Work on your pistol squat. If you can't do a full pistol squat, there's a lot of progressions you can do to get up to that. Step ups and skater squats are also great. For posterior chain exercises, a Nordic hamstring curl, like, those are really hard. Throw your feet under the couch, do a couple hamstring curls, your hammies are gonna be feeling it. Or single leg slider curls, if you just have a towel and a hardwood floor, you'll feel the burn. For pressing exercises, as I've said a million times, the push-up. Progress to the one arm push-up. Progress to the no arm push-up. Just kidding, don't do that. Then you just be on your face. Like I said earlier, back a lot harder to target if you have 0 equipment, so definitely get yourself a pull-up bar, work on your pull-up progression. And then for overhead pressing variations, a handstand push-up, like against the wall, unless you can do a full handstand press-up, like great, but like kick up against a wall, handstand press-ups. A regression or variation of that that's a lot less scary is the pike push-up. My course Fat Loss 101, it does come with 3 different variations of the workout programs, one of which is entirely body weight and resistance band based. So if all you have is resistance bands and body weight, then the workout program within Fat Loss 101 will work great for you. The other variation is dumbbell and resistance band only. So if you have like adjustable dumbbells and resistance bands, then that's also gonna help a lot. And of course, once you add in resistance bands or various objects that you can find in your own home, there's a lot more variety than just the exercises that I just listed, but those are great exercises to just build your programming around. So that said, if you are building your own workout program, highly recommend creating a program and sticking to it week after week. Don't just do whatever you feel like on any given day. And this applies to gym workouts as well. Again, with the muscle confusion thing, like if you're doing a different thing every single time, your body is just gonna be confused and you can't apply progressive overload to push your body in one specific direction, which is where you want it to go. Your body's just gonna be all over the place. So, I mean, how to create a good workout program is probably really a different video. Let me know if you guys want that video. But basically, for at-home workouts, create 1 week worth of workouts and then do that week after week after week until you're starting to plateau, and then switch it up. I just see way too many people who work out at home who every time they go to workout, they just Google at-home workout and do the first thing that comes up, or like go on YouTube and like find the first thing that comes up and just do that. And so there's no consistency. You really need that consistency in order to apply progressive overload, which is what is key for building and maintaining muscle in deficit. So if you apply all these things, you're going to be able to get efficient, effective fat loss results at home. It is absolutely 100% possible. You don't have to have a gym in order to make progress. There are obviously some pretty big drawbacks to only training at home. Like if I ever have a client, I would absolutely encourage them to have access to a gym, or at least have some equipment for a variety of reasons. If I do have a client who's like, should I work out at home or should I get a gym membership? I'm always gonna recommend getting the gym membership. A, because it is going to reduce boredom around your exercises because you're gonna have so much more variety to choose from for exercises, but also because it is a lot harder to hit certain muscle groups in efficient, effective ways from home. Like I said, trying to hit your back heavy from home, very, very difficult. You're gonna be very, very limited, basically to just pull-ups. Also, really, really hard to load your glutes heavy at home. If you're trying to build a dumpy, if you're trying to get a little bit of cake back there, you need a barbell, or at the very least, some heavy dumbbells, at least to get started. But you're gonna progress through those pretty quickly, and then you're not gonna be able to make a lot of progress with glute growth without a barbell. But to be fair, this video is about fat loss, not building the butt. But beyond that, with these tips, you are all set. And if any of you do want a little bit of help with your fat loss goals, fitness goals, health goals, whatever it may be, friendly reminder, I do have a couple spaces open for one-on-one training with me. So if you want me to write you an at-home workout program, work you through an at-home workout program to help you lose fat, or any of your other goals, I am here for you. You can just apply on MissFitAndNerdy.com. In the meantime, let me know what other kind of videos you guys want to see. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really does support me and my channel. I really genuinely appreciate it. Please share this video with your friends, your family, your gym buddies, or your at-home fitness buddies. If you want to see more content from me all about health and fitness, you can check it out over here. To see future videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell so you get notified when I post a video, and I will see you very soon. Bye!